Good morning. We'd like to welcome you to another edition of the Sunday School Review. This week's lesson is entitled Abiding Love, and is taken from John, the 15th chapter, verses 4 through 17. And in this particular study today, this is after the upper room discourse, and Jesus is now on his way to Gethsemane, or either at Gethsemane. Now they have, as I said, they have left the upper room, and this particular lesson, this is one of the last I am statements of Jesus. Now, the I am statements of Jesus started in chapter 6, where he said, I am the bread of life. And secondly, he said, I am the light of the world. And thirdly, he said, I am the door. And fourth, he said, I am the good shepherd. And fifth, he said, I am the resurrection and the life. And the sixth I am statement, I am the way, the truth, and life. And this seventh and last I am statement, I am the vine, or more correctly, I am the true vine. And in verse 1 through 3, which is not in our lesson starts with verse 4 of chapter 15 in John. And in verse 1, he makes that statement, I am the true vine. And it goes on to say, my Father is the husbandman, or the gardener. Now, the job of the gardener is to ensure the health and growth of the vine and the fruit that it produces. And we go into verse 4, which is the first verse in our lesson. It says, abide in me, and I in you, as the branch cannot bear fruit of itself, except it abide in the vine. No more can ye, except ye abide in me. And verse 5, I am the vine, ye are the branches. He that beareth abideth in me, and I in him, the same bringeth forth much fruit, for without me you can do nothing. Now, and we see here, he says, abide in me. Now, how do we abide in him? We abide in him by abiding in his word, through prayer and fellowship. Now, the scripture talks about the word is like a two-edged sword. Now, a two-edged sword cuts both ways. Now, when we talk about pruning, that is a cutting back. Now, the word is what does the pruning. Now, and when the word sometimes cuts us or prunes us, a lot of time that cut deep. And all we can say sometimes is, ouch, because it cuts. And that's the process. That's the purpose of pruning, so it can be more productive. And that's the work, that's the job of the word. It prunes us. It prunes us so we can be more productive. So it says, abide in me, and we abide in him through the word, prayer, and fellowship. And so the same bring forth much fruit. If you do that, you're going to be productive or fruitful. For without me, you can do nothing. Now, let's talk about this nothing. You might say, well, yeah, I can accumulate a lot of money. I can accumulate a lot of material things. But as we're going to see as this lesson, as we move further in this lesson, this nothing doesn't have to do with material gain. It has to do with something that's going to last, and that is spiritual. Now, money, and I've heard people say, and I haven't seen it either, that they haven't seen a funeral procession and the person's material possessions tag along behind them. No, I never heard of a funeral you go to and the person has stacks of money in their casket. I guarantee you, if it's there, it probably won't make it to the ground. So, but this nothing has to do with, you cannot do anything that is going to last. That is spiritual profit. That's what this nothing has to do with. It has nothing to do with material things. Oh, you can accomplish a lot of that outside of being in Him, but that's not going to last. And that's what it's talking about. So you cannot produce spiritual gain or things for the kingdom unless you stay connected. That's what this abide is. Now, it doesn't say you have to do anything else but just stay connected. The fruit does not have to do nothing to be productive other than stay connected to the vine. And as I said, how we stay connected? Through the word, through prayer and fellowship. So, and this is, it says it's a promise. This is a promise here, but you must stay connected. Let's go to now verse 6. Now, in verse 6, he's going to reissue this warning. Said, if a man abide not in me, he is cast forth as a branch and is withered, and men gather them and cast them in the fire, and they are burned. Now, you might ask, why? Because they're dead. There is no life there. If you don't stay connected, you have no life. Now, if you want to do an experiment, you can go cut off a branch, cut a branch off a tree. The branch may have fruit on it. Now, the branch and the fruit will look good for a minute, but the branch is going to eventually wither, and the fruit that's on the branch will rot. Or it's going to look good for a minute, but if the branch is severed from the vine or the tree, the branch is going to eventually wither and die. If you want to try that experiment, do it. Okay, now let's go to verse 7. If ye abide in me, and my words abide in ye, ye shall ask what ye will, and it shall be done unto you. You say, oh, wow. You mean I can ask anything I want? But let's, wait a minute. Let's look at the qualifier here. The qualifier is, if you abide in me. It's not a blanket statement here saying, oh, you can ask anything you want and I will do it. But the qualifier, if you abide in me. Because if you abide in him, you will not ask anything outside of his will. Remember that. So yes, you can ask anything you want and it will be done, providing that you abide in him. And verse 8, herein is my Father glorified, that ye bear much fruit, so ye shall be my disciples. Now, let's look at that. my Father is glorified. Not me, not you, but you glorifying the Father. You're not doing it to glorify yourself, but it will glorify the Father, not you. Now, let's go on to verse 9. And the sub heading is the Lord and his friends. Love and joyful obedience. Verse 9. As the Father has loved me, so have I loved you. And what he's saying here, we need to remain in him. That is, remain in him through the word, prayer, and fellowship. Verse 10, if ye keep my commandments, ye shall abide in my love, even as I have kept my Father's commandment and abide in his love. These things have I spoken unto you, that my joy might remain in you, and that your joy might be full. Now, we're talking about the joy of the Lord, not just happiness, because there is a difference between joy, which is a spiritual attribute, versus happy or happiness, which can be a spiritual attribute as well as a natural attribute. You can have joy can only comes from God, whereas happy, if you give me $1 million, oh, I'll be a happy person. But will I have joy? But the spiritual happiness is joy. So happiness can be a spiritual concept as well as a natural concept, but joy is exclusively a spiritual concept. Joy only comes from the Lord. So this is the type of joy that is being talked about here. This is the joy that comes from the Lord. And verse 12, this is my commandment, that ye love one another as I have loved you. Now, that is the standard that we need to strive for. That is the standard. Sometimes they say the gold standard. That is the standard. That ye love one another as I have loved you. And let's look at 13. Greater love has no man than this, that a man lay down his life for his friend. Now, this type of love is what we refer to as sacrificial love, because that's what he did for us. He sacrificed himself for us. So we should have that type of love for one another. Now, it's not necessarily saying that we should give our natural life for someone, our physical life, but we should sacrifice for others. Now, one scripture tells us that all things are lawful, but not expedient. I mean, just because I have the liberty to do something, and if it offends my brother, maybe I should not do that if it could cause my brother to stumble. Now, this is what it's talking about when we should sacrifice some things that we have the, as we call it, the right to do. Well, I have the right to do this, but I don't care whether it offends my brother or not. I'm going to do it because I have the liberty, I have the right to do it. And this is what it's talking about. This is what we talk about when we say sacrificial love. He did it because of his love for us. He didn't have to do it. Some things we don't, I don't have to sacrifice that, but I will sacrifice that because it will cause my brother to offend or to stumble. Therefore, I will sacrifice. And this is what is talking about when we talk about the sacrificial love. Greater love has no man than this, that a man laid down his life for his friend. In verse 14, ye are my friends if you do whatsoever I command you. So, and let's do 15. Henceforth, I call you not servants, for the servant knoweth not what his Lord doeth, but I have called you friends, for all things that I've heard of my Father, I've made known unto you. Now, when we look at the difference between a servant and a friend, now you don't reveal everything to a servant. You just tell a servant, well, do it. Why? Because I said so. I mean, you don't disclose, well, you don't inform, you don't have to inform the servant. Why? Well, why you want me to do this? You're just a servant, just do it. So I don't call you servant. I call you friend because I have given you everything you need to know. You are fully informed, okay? I'm not holding anything back from you. Whereas a servant, no, you're not going to disclose your business to a servant, but you may disclose it to a friend. And this is what Jesus said. I have given you everything you need to know because you're my friend. Not just a servant, you're my friend. And verse 16, it says, and this is as it relates to being a friend. Ye have not chosen me, but I have chosen you and ordained you that ye shall go and bring forth fruit, and that your fruit should remain, that whatsoever ye shall ask of the Father in my name, he may give it. Now, let's talk about the chosen. It's not that, well, I'm going to choose him. No, he chose you. Say it. Ye have not chosen me, but I have chosen you as a friend. And this is, what was it? That your fruit should remain. Remember verse 5, when we read verse 5, and we were talking about, aside from being in the vine, you can do nothing. And you want to be in the vine that your fruit will remain. And this is a reference back there that your fruit should remain. Now, the accumulation of wealth is not going to last forever, as I said. The accumulation of material gains, which is the same as wealth, or any of fame, okay, that's not going to remain in the end. So this is what we said, you got to remain or abide in the vine, that your fruit will last, will remain. And as whatsoever you ask in my name, he may give it. And the last verse, verse 17, these things that I command you, that you love one another. And we talked about love a week or so ago, and well, a couple of weeks ago, and we said that this type of love, this agape love, this love that unconditional love, and verse 13 today, it talked about this type of love, this sacrificial love that we should have for one another. And that is a command that Jesus issues to his disciples. We'd like to thank you for watching today. Join in next week for another edition of the Sunday School Review. Thank you.